Hey, welcome back. Today I am putting a new garden in. So this is the before when we bought the house. You can see it's a little overgrown. We had a maple tree that had seeded itself, junipers that were taking over. So we decided to remove everything and start from scratch. This area is seeing a new makeover. We are doing a greenhouse just to the left there. So I thought, why not tackle this sort of area too while I was at it? I'm a little bit crazy, but once the gardening fever sort of takes over, I just have to keep going. So my husband was removing the maple there, and then I built this rock terrace just around the asphalt driveway. And I planted that upper portion when we first moved in, just sort of like an easy care garden. Black lace elderberry, barberries, a mugo pine, a thunderchild crabapple, just some really nice color and interest for the front of the house. So that is the area we are working with, and all the rocks I actually grabbed from the mountainside. We have an abundance of rocks, so I just built that little retaining wall with that just to tie into the Allen blocks my husband built on the right side. And next, I walked out the spacing for these tidy little junipers I found. They stay quite small, about 26 inches wide, and I think they'll add some really nice visual height to this bed and evergreen interest. So I just sort of spaced them out, walked them out about 5 feet apart since they're going to get about 2.5 feet wide, and just making sure that they are spaced evenly. And I love a burgundy touch in the garden, and I think they really play off that barberry as well and the black lace elderberry. So then I was putting in these pentstemons. They are quite mature already, but they will get a little bit wider. But the blooms on these are really pretty as well. And then I dug out some catmint that I had planted around the flower farm. This sort of reseeds and takes over just slightly, not too much, but I do have a lot of it down at the flower farm. So I pulled some of that and I'm transplanting it here. I really like the sage green leaf texture and then the slight purple blooms that they give throughout the growing season. Catmint is definitely one of my favorite perennials and I really, really love it. So yeah, it'll add a nice consistent flow to the bottom of this bed. When I was new to gardening, I used the color method, making sure to plant green, blue, red, and yellow in the landscape, and it just gave a really pleasing look to the garden, and I still follow that method today. So I think this garden definitely checks all of those color boxes, and it just really gives a nice look to the yard. And here is everything. I was taking a lot of steps back just to make sure that I was happy with the placement. Not that it's that difficult to move them once they're in, but I just wanted to make sure that it was sort of even, making sure that I liked the final look. And then it was time to start digging the holes. This soil was quite rich. So we had the junipers sort of covering the soil for many, many years. I don't know how old they were. But then we had that maple tree too that was dropping its leaves year after year. So the soil here seems to be quite loamy and very rich of nutrients. But I did have that bag of soil that I was going to add as well, just to make sure. And then I also have bone meal too, which really helps to establish the root system. And I thought that would be especially beneficial for the junipers just to get established. Apparently in 10 years, they will get to their mature size, which is about 9 or 10 feet tall. And like I said, about 2.5 feet wide. So a smaller dwarf juniper, but a really nice upright look for the garden. When I first saw this sort of like columnar juniper look, I think it was in more of a Mediterranean garden, but I find that look really appeals to me. The sage greens, the muted tones, the sort of a refined style, but sort of understated as well, if that makes any sense. Yeah, it just really appeals to me. So anyway, digging out holes, making sure that everything's sort of evenly spaced, and just sort of enjoying my time in the garden. It was a nice overcast day. We had a lot of warm temperatures in the spring, but now it's sort of cooling down, which is really enjoyable when you're working in the garden. So I just was taking my time, enjoying the cooler weather. I don't know about you, but now since I've become a gardener, I really look forward to the overcast days and even just a little bit of a drizzle. It just makes the gardening chores go a little bit easier as the weather's not as exhausting. Okay, and now with the bulk of the planting done, and all the grunt work with moving the rocks, it was time for the easier sort of smaller plants to sort of tuck in around the edges. So here I have a transplanted thyme. I had bought this from Walmart. It's a seed pack, and it said it was a creeping thyme, but it's definitely not. It's a taller thyme, but it sort of takes over, and I thought it would be nice for this little corner, just to kind of cascade over the rock edge. So I transplanted this portion into the corner here. It was a bit shocked at the moment, but it has come back. But it has since revived itself and come back a little bit healthier. So here I am just tucking it in and watering everything in well. It really helps to give everything a good drink after you're transplanting or planting. And now for some finishing details. This is actual creeping thyme. It's more of a ground cover that stays quite low. I thought tucking it in amongst these rocks would give a really pleasing effect. I think it's essential for a rock garden to have something sort of spilling over the edges, and I thought creeping thyme would be perfect for that. So here I am just mixing in some sphagnum moss, which I had around, mixing it in with the native soil just to make sure that it's got some good absorption for the roots. The sphagnum moss will also keep the soil in place. Otherwise, the water could sort of flush the soil between the rocks, which I do not want. So yeah, just planting these just along the perimeter of the rock terrace. I think it'll give a really pleasing look, especially once it's in full bloom, just adding that pop of purple as well. There's something that just really softens a rock wall, adding some plants mixed within. So here I am adding some sedum or stone crop. These are cold hardy sedums that are very drought tolerant, so I think they'll be perfect for this little nook. So this one is called Tricolor, and it only gets a few inches high, but it does seem to spread. So my goal and my hope is that it sort of roots itself around the rocks and just like I said, softens the harshness of the rock. Sedum is really good for that. I've got it in other areas, and it just is a nice little ground cover. I really enjoy it in the yard. It seems to be quite deer resistant and, like I said, drought tolerant, and I think it does well with the heat too of the summer because these rocks will get pretty warm, but I think they can tolerate a lot of warmth. So a very versatile plant. And then the next one is dragon's blood. I actually added this one to my succulent fountain. If you saw my video on that, it's doing quite well. And the leaves get a little bit more burgundy than they are right now. And then this one also, coral reef. I just noticed now it's a zone 6, so it might be an annual for me, but it might come back as well. We'll see. But the good thing is with the succulents is they do multiply, so I can always transplant another one if this one doesn't make it. And once everything got another drink, I was adding a few more rocks just to sort of continue the look so it didn't look sort of out of place. I find that just adding more of everything gives it a better flow. So I'm sort of tucking it around the base of the plants. It will help with erosion as well because we are slightly on a hill here. So yeah, just moving the rocks in place to sort of continue the look. My neighbor and I joke that we live on rock farms, but there is an advantage, I guess, when you're building a rock garden. So it was great to just sort of take these from the property and reuse them in this garden. When you're planting holes, you always are finding rocks in our area. But like I said, there are some benefits to having them as well. I love the lichen and the moss too that's growing on them. after planting those sedums, I thought I needed more of a focal flower. Once a flower farmer, always a flower farmer. So I thought just to have sort of a bigger rosette. I had some hen and chicks growing elsewhere that I transplanted and just popped them into these little nooks. It just needed a little bit more softening, and I thought these hen and chicks would just take over and multiply in these little rock crevices. And the final touch was just adding these logs. Not only does it sort of complete that woodland look feel that I'm going for, I also have heard that they're beneficial for insects. Different bugs will use this as a habitat. Plus, like I said, it's just a beautiful look in my opinion that really goes with our natural landscape. And then I'm tucking in some moss. That's also from the forest behind us. I'm not sure if it'll do well in the full sun, but we will see. It's always an experiment to see what sort of we can get away with. And I always think it's helpful to go to the beginning and see where we started. That hideous juniper had to go, and here we are now. There are still lots of empty spaces. Of course, you can see a lot of soil. So as these plants mature, I think it'll fill in, but also I'm thinking of adding some lupins. I started pixie from seed winter sowing, so I'm thinking lupins will look really nice to add to this garden. Let me know what you think, what I should add to sort of fill in the blank spaces. I'm really enjoying how it looks so far, but like I said, it just needs a little bit something else. Well, that's all for today. Thank you for joining me. It was an exhausting but very fulfilling project. I'm really excited to see how this garden fills in. But let me know in the comments what you think I should pop in there, whether it's lupins or something else. I really appreciate all of your comments. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.